你好，欢迎来到中国。Hello， 你好。这人啊，这个help我。慢点慢。
Ni hao, legends. G'day, legends. Good morning from Xiamen, China. A lot of people, I guess, were getting tricked a bit of where I was flying to, and people thought everywhere from Georgia to Russia to Afghanistan. But no, I've actually popped up here in Xiamen, this little suburb here called Daliao. Something like that. I absolutely will butcher every part of this language. But I arrived last night. I had a lot of apprehension about this trip. And my friend here was laughing at me because he's like, mate, you've been all these places all around the world. Why do you have apprehension coming to China? Like, well, what I've been told basically my entire life, what it is a country of which is an enemy to ours that wants to see our way destroyed, and that is dystopian in every way possible. And he laughed at me. It was like, mate, you need to come. And the funny thing is, me and this guy I've known for a good couple of years now. He was just like, look, if you've got time, come across. I've got some time off work. I can show you how to use the apps and whatever, and go from there. Looked into the visas, visa-free entry, which should be your first thing of, okay, you don't need any details about who I am even previous to this. So I came in, no issues at all. Actually, less issues. The most issues I've ever had on a border is to England, then Australia, then America. Here it was, oh yeah, you're catching up with someone, when do you leave? I said, 5-6 days. Okay, no worries, stamped my passport, bag came out, I'm in. So, wild. So, what is the plan of the trip? Well, I've come across basically on a research writing trip. That's why I'm here. I don't want anything specific. I don't know if any videos are even going to get made beyond potentially this. All I want to do is come here with my eyes open, observe everything that I can, and see what is this ancient, culturally rich, massive population, massive diaspora of a country. Why Xiamen? Well, if you look at where it is on a map, you might get a pretty good idea of why here. I think it's 304 kilometers across to Taiwan. Also, this area of China has a massive diaspora over the last hundreds of years. Many of the Chinese you may see in the West are from an area like Xiamen or Fujian province. Also, the people here, the language they speak is the same as in Taiwan. But also, I want to explore the infrastructure, the build-up of this city. You'll see it's on like a little island. In 1980, I believe, this city had a GDP of around 100 million USD. And now I believe it's 106, 180 billion USD. So you get an idea around that. So I'm just going to go for a walk around this. There's like a pond park thing down here. I walked past the restaurant. I was going to show you, but I couldn't actually pick out which one it was. The restaurant I had dinner at last night. I had dinner at like a noodle soup, dumplings at a Muslim restaurant last night. And I was interested in it because I went in, I didn't have my camera on me and I'm not going to film everything. was I walked in and they had Palestinian flags with like a fist over the top of it, as in like a flag of solidarity with Palestine. Walk in, she's in a headscarf, wonderful food, wonderful people. Of course, I don't share any of the same language, but I thought that was something interesting, and I actually believe I'm going to a restaurant today where the people who run it are Uyghur Muslim. So, look, there's going to be bits in this video that are incorrect. I'll put up any obvious corrections that I need to make. But, yeah, basically down to the point of the world is in a great power struggle between these two hyperpowers, between the US, between China. The only time I can think of in modern history that is somewhat similar is the Soviets versus the Americans, or if you would even go larger and say the capitalists versus the communists. But they didn't have the ancient culture, the ancient history, the build-up, the foundation base that this has, and it just seems to me China has just been this sleeping behemoth that has gone through so many peaks and troughs of collapse and rise and collapse and rise, like a phoenix resurfacing again after a whole dynasty, and millions of people will die. But it does appear that over just my lifetime that this like sleeping giant has been woken. And what is it? Is it what some will say of a North Korean authoritarian dystopian reality, or is it a country that is different, a country that has different ways, a country with ancient ways, that those ancient ways still influence massive amounts of the people, politics? Well, we'll do some exploring and I'll see. As I've said, I'm going to be doing a lot of writing. I don't know if you guys will ever see any of that. I'm quite embarrassed by the poor quality of my handwriting. Maybe I'll type it up. But I'm talking to as many people as I can, using interpreters, translators when it's needed, and get an idea of how people think. Now, none of that is going to be made public. All of these, I wouldn't even call them interviews, just discussions I have with people will all be, of course, anonymous, unless they want to go on the record and say something. But it's just for me, it's personal development. It's me, when I talk about a state like this, I get a better sense of who people are, because unlike many, I'm not willing to just demonise 1.4 billion people because my state told me that they are different. And I'd hope that then they wouldn't demonise 26 million, doesn't sound very impressive, does it, from Australia or the West in general. So I think that's, I'm trying to think of anything else. Well, I guess I should maybe tell you about my first experiences landing, I guess. I flew on Xiamen airline I flew Virgin from where I live in Adelaide to Melbourne, then Melbourne, on typical budget carrier airline. No problems, except for when they took my ticket and passport. They would read my name backwards typically, and they just saw that my ticket was like the right words of my name, but in the wrong order. No issue. I arrive, I get off, go to immigration. I'm pretty nervous because I couldn't figure out if I needed a visa or not. There's a 240-hour visa-free transit, but I'm not transiting, I'm coming and going. I emailed the embassy a couple of weeks back, and they sent me just to like a frequently answered questions. So I figured, well, I'll ask DeepSeek, surely that's going to know. And then I'll ask ChatGPT and see if I do need a visa. And both of them said, under 15 days, as an Aussie, don't need a visa. But then there were certain bits and pieces that were translated of, but if this, but if that, and I'm like, oh God, I don't know. Got here, walk up the counter through the airport. Firstly, actually, let's digress just a second. We flew in, basically, over the South China Sea, basically to Hong Kong, and then like north, straight up the coast. The infrastructure, as far as industrial infrastructure, wild. Just power plants, ports, docks, rows and rows of basically like commie block looking houses. Get in, Airport, not that busy, plenty of staff on, walk in, see the lady, give her my passport, I'm thinking, here we bloody go. It's like, so you visiting a friend? Yes. Chinese? No. Okay. Oh, do you have a return flight? It's like she forgot to ask me. I said yes. Okay. Welcome to China. Stamp my passport, do my fingerprints, so now that's in the system forever, but that's alright. So I go. Bag basically came out really early, so that's good. Just personally good. You know, yeah, you getting the bag off the carousel first is it's a superiority complex to all those others on your flight. Like, I don't care if we all got here in the same time. I don't care if you're in business. I've got my bag. So, legends. I'm gonna spin around. I'm gonna go try and find a coffee to eat. I've got a mad headache because I haven't had a coffee yet. Because back home it's about 10 a.m. So, yeah. Welcome to Xiamen. My friend did say, expect a lot of people to stare at you. One, because I'm someone walking around with a camera on a stick. Secondly, he said in some areas like this, you might be the first Westerner that a lot of people have seen. It's alright. Disappointed as 5'6", chubby with no hair. That's a pity. But we'll do what we can. This city isn't as industrial as a lot of others. I think I'll visit some of them if I've got time. I'm only here for a few days, purely because I just can't miss that much work. Australia's in a cost of living crisis, and I don't have sick leave, I don't have leave, I don't have annual leave. I can't really take more than a week off if I'm not actually producing videos while I'm there. But apparently this city is known for a fantastic university, apparently one of the best universities in all of China, so therefore has a very young audience. And everything has been this sort of renewal of what was a fishing industry and anciently a port for tea into, well, a lot of those old fishing huts, shacks, have been made into art studios and this and that. So that'll be interesting to see. So yeah, I'm going to be doing some riding, I'm going to be hanging out, I'm going to be eating some food, I'm going to be meeting some people. I'm going to be avoiding the 1 billion cameras on a stick around here. I'm meaning more of the surveillance everywhere and trying to navigate. Well, there's really only 1 or 2 apps, but for me they're to be able to communicate back here through VPNs and etc., which I've had 0 problems with so far. So, legends, have a great day, and I'll check in soon. Oh, actually, I forgot something. Down where we came, across here, there was like a huge dance party last night. Like, there was everyone from like 75-year-old women through to like probably like 30. Massive like dance party, and he's like, oh, this is what everyone does for exercise to get out. It's fucking going on. Lucky I didn't have a couple of beers in me. I would have been in the mosh pit. Something I should add, because I know I'll get accusations over it or people make things up, is there's a reason I've told no one about this trip while I've been silent on it. Is, well, I don't want any external influence on this, either from criticisms and trying to, I guess, play down if I'm getting a lot of BS, or if it was from state level influence as well. I know I'm not that important, but I do need to remember sometimes I do have a large following. So all of this, people who accuse that now I work for another agency, I've been accused of working for every intelligence agency that all hate each other, but all of this was booked, paid for by myself. The only assistance I'm getting is from a friend of mine, basically with the applications, and then some help to find people to be able to translate certain things with me, or a bit of a, hey, maybe you'll go find this interesting. But beyond that, there's no influence. I can say what I want, see what I want. I've booked and paid for everything. Got all the receipts if anyone wants to see any of that. I'm trying to see which bloody restaurant I was at last night. It was next to one of the pizza ones. Anyway, so I just thought I'd clear that up before someone does inevitably jump on me for something as silly as that. You guys know where I sit in this. And look, there's probably going to be things that I won't say while I'm here. That's why I'm using this wonderful thing called a notepad and pen to write everything down. Because there may be things that I see, witness, whatever, or believe or think that I want to talk about once I'm back from this trip. So, yeah, I know there's going to be silliness thrown around about that. I found the restaurant right here. So, if you don't want to make the accusation, I'll come with receipts. Right, so there's this champion pizza, which we didn't go to, of course, why would I? But then this white red one right in the middle here. That's the halal. You can see on the left side the writing with halal on it too. That's where we went last night. Wonderful. I think I've got a couple of photographs that I will show you. Yeah. I have been warned though, be very careful on the roads. Everything is wild and crazy. Of course, you've got silent electric vehicles everywhere. A billion people, literally, not just the term billion thrown around if I've made $1 billion. No, literally a billion people. Roads are a little bit wild. Ni hao. Chinese mystery meat. So we have the ginger duck. I'm aware that the LEDs on the buildings is often a bit of a meme when it comes to China, and people think that, well, the meme goes along the lines of, well, people think progress is LEDs on buildings, but you've got to admit, it's pretty impressive when you see the bridge like this, and then the city across here all lit up as well, and all this behind me. No matter what you think of it, it's pretty. That is pretty impressive. Come on, look at that. Look at over here. And this is cities you've never even heard of. So behind me is Mr. Tao Shan. G'day legends, and welcome back to the Dailao Reservoir in Xiamen, Fujian Province, China. Now, why am I finishing the video here? Or at least my initial video. Well, this is where we started the video. So, I feel like a bit of a new man with a different perspective after only a week here. And, well, what I'm going to do today is we're going to finish the video where we started it, and I'm going to finish my experimental eating trip as well with the Islam noodles just up the road here. That was also my first meal in China. But what we're going to do, we're going to walk around this wonderful reservoir here, and I'm just going to take you through a lot of my notes and a lot of my realizations while being in China. Now, I am pushing a suitcase as we go, so I hope that isn't too annoying for you, but I also will be stopping to look at my notes very often as well, because, well, I've got a lot. Just got to find which pocket that my phone is in. Now, what I will say is a lot of these points, topics that I'm going to speak on, much more extended in the future. I need to get home, I need to decompress, I need to finish my writing, and then I'll think further about this and break down the specifics and maybe do individual videos. But China, well, many thought that I was crazy for coming to China. I was nervous entering, and still to this day, friends of mine are saying, what are you doing there, man? You're going to end up shoveling dirt on a railroad somewhere up in the north, because you're going to end up in a prison camp. And look, I'd be lying if I said that that wasn't to a degree of how I felt before coming as well. Yeah. So, let me stop walking because my suitcase is unbelievably annoying to try and read notes. But that is, the initial thoughts. I was very nervous entering. It was an unknown. And I've never had a larger existential realization of being incorrect than this trip. Let me take this other bag off. As you can see, my stain on my shirt is still there from the Islam Noodles Night 1. And I said before that I feel like I'm exiting a different man of when I entered. And that is because so much of what was built up in my head, not only do I realise that I was incorrect, naive, even to the point of some of it so ridiculous that my friends, some friends I've made here, locals who became friends, laughed at me when I asked it. Not out of being rude, because they're incredibly polite, incredibly open, but out of the absurdity and ridiculousness of the question. And I say naive, but you need to remember too that there is $1 trillion propaganda campaign to influence people about this becoming great state power as well. Or it is a great state power, and will it become the power and overtake others? Well, it depends who you ask of if that has already happened or if it will happen in the next few years. Many say that the West or America does international politics like chess. You know who's winning. It's very clear who has won. And some say that China, that they do their international affairs and war much more like a Chinese game of Wei Chi, which is a far more intricate game on a board, that it's difficult to know who has won. Even when the game has ended, it takes a while to figure out exactly who has actually been successful. So many will say if in fact it feels like therefore there's been a power balance shift, you may already be a decade past that. Some say this with the event horizon of a collapsing state. If you feel like, oh, Jesus, the system's not looking good, it feels like it's collapsing, you're already actually past the event horizon of saviour. But let me digress back to the notes that I wrote in a cafe just before. I went into this eyes wide open to observe everything and changing your opinion, changing what has been built up and you've thought for years or decades. It's very, very difficult. And that's why I say I'm going to need a lot of decompression from this, because you are told that not only the state but the people are your enemy. And my question when I first was here at this reservoir was, okay, are these people my enemy? And as I said, my friends and I thought I was crazy for just going to China. You're going to end up in a prison camp, you're going to be arrested there, MSS is going to jump out of a bush and grab you. My experience has been anything but. So the main points that I want to touch on, and I'm going to touch on these at length in specific videos with specific elements, that is on surveillance, censorship, social credit, and the way of life. I think these are many questions that people have about China, and people would think that it is too taboo, too censored, too sensitive to ask while here. As I said, I was nervous entering. I was shitting myself on the plane the night before. I don't have the back to work on a railroad. I get to immigration, nerves hit me again because all the immigration officers, not armed, but they're in incredibly neat clothing. And I'm like, oh God, here we go. And I don't have a visa. My reading was that I don't need a visa for under 15 days. And as Australian, but it was a bit unclear. Walk up to the counter, hand the lady my passport. Hello. Looks at it, takes my fingerprint, and then she says, welcome to China. And then she stops me as I went to go. She said, sorry, when do you leave? And I said, the 26th. And she goes, okay, welcome to China. Casual as, legitimately less paperwork than if I went to Europe or America, or less paperwork than I'll be completing on the plane tonight to go back into Australia. Now, why do I think that this was something that's astounding for me? Well, I served in the military, I've served on operations, I've been to many countries countries that are no friend of China. Many countries that are saying that they will be in a war with China soon. And I have been outspoken against China and the party and the leadership. And, oh yeah, stamp passport, in you come. Come on. No visa. And someone commented on my Telegram when I posted I was in China and said, I thought you vehemently hated China. Now that is incorrect. If that came across like that, I never hate. I don't hate anyone for being anyone. But was there a build-up of this is our enemy from propaganda, from campaigns, from even things that are foreign? Yeah, there was. And that's what I say. Changing is hard. But we need to not be naive. Right. So those topics. And I said about entering nervously. And it can be a little bit difficult when you first get here because everything is digital. It's digital payment for everything, digital booking of things, whatever. Once you've got the apps, it's fine. Getting into hotels, fine. I didn't have to register a visa. I didn't have to register where I was staying, like some countries where you may have to. I'm free to go wherever I wanted. Everywhere I went, I was treated with kindness, respect. I had no issues at all. The only time I ever got stopped, hey, was by a police officer who he only wanted to say hello and wave. That was it. Like I saw him looking at me, and I thought,
are you recording or live stream?
No, they're just recording. How are you?
Good.
You live Xiamen?
Yes.
Oh, great. You speak good English.
Yeah, thank you.
It's not that common in China.
Yeah, because I studied it.
Yeah, right. I fly in a few hours.
Uh-huh.
But I'm just giving my take on sort of my overall trip of what I had to China, and I was just explaining how everyone treated me with like kindness and respect and was lovely to me.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So how long were you spending here?
Only 1 week.
Only 1 week.
Yeah, so I went Xiamen, Fuzhou,
Alright.
and then back to flight.
Back to where?
Sorry, to Adelaide, Australia.
Adelaide, Australia.
Yeah.
Adelaide.
Yeah.
Adelaide.
Have you been to Australia?
No, not yet. No, everything. But
You'll
I
have
know-
to.
You have to.
Yeah.
That's Adelaide.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the opposite side is the like an island of the Adelaide. Is it an island?
No, it's part of the mainland.
Adelaide. Alright.
Hey.
Hello.
Say hello. Yeah, that's pretty good.
All right. Take your time.
Easy.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Look after yourself.
Yeah.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, that feels almost too perfect of timing. God damn, everyone's going to be like, nah, you're being paid off. But yeah, sorry, where I was going was the only copper. He just wanted to say hello because I think he saw someone who, I presume, American or English, and he must know some English, and he was excited just to say hello. That was it. But otherwise, there's no cops anywhere. I think I saw maybe 5 to 10, and some of them I think were security guards that I can't read. So look at the interaction I just had. That is common, and most people's frustration that I found was because they don't speak enough English to interact with me, and they were frustrated by some of that. The level of infrastructure. Now I know this is vastly different through the west of China, but the level of infrastructure here in cities that you would never have heard of, Changzhou, Fuzhou, Xiamen, you'd never even heard of these cities. And the level of infrastructure, the cleanliness is unbelievable. Come here. Just come and look. Look, I got in here and I'm publicly outspoken and I've served the military. You're not going to have problems if you come here. If I haven't, you won't. So that was unbelievable. I haven't seen any rubbish. I haven't seen a single syringe. I haven't seen one homeless person. I asked someone who's lived here for years, have you seen any homeless? He said, yeah, once. And then I didn't since. And then explained that there's a campaign to bring people off the street and give them somewhere where there's communal sleeping and beds, etc. And no like youth crime hanging out at the mall or on the train that you think is going to stab you. The roads, unbelievable. The buildings, some of them old, some of them new, but the new ones are just unbelievable. The bullet train, that blew my socks off. I don't know what point is a bullet train to a fast train, but 308 kilometers an hour. Unbelievable. Smooth as, quiet, unbelievably respectful. Toilets, clean as. Train, on time. That blew me away. So, as I said, the initial getting here is intimidating because everything is on digital apps that we're not used to in the West. Instead of Uber, you've got Diddy. Instead of Google Pay or Apple Pay or just your physical card, you've got WeChat or Alipay. But otherwise, same thing, easy as. Now, let's get to the point of surveillance. Now, I'm standing right here and there are multiple cameras. There are 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. Okay, too many to count. The whole way, everywhere, cameras. Surveillance, everywhere. Now, I've spoken to many of my friends about this, and I thought, am I even going to be able to bring this up? I say friends, people I've met. I consider my friends now. And they basically were like, no, if you're not breaking the law, we see it as a good thing. If you're not breaking the law, why would you be worried about it? And this is always the thing with surveillance like this, is there's a pro and a con. Is the people I see walking home from bars late at night, girls be able to walk home here, you can't do that somewhere like Australia that doesn't have the surveillance. So I guess there's a payoff and a trade-off for the freedom to not be surveyed as well. So there's always that. But the people I spoke to here, they see it as, this is not a bad thing. It means there are no cops anywhere. There are no cops. The only cops I've seen, well, it's like a small car crash, and that was it. It means that none of the cops are armed. Meanwhile, in Australia, we are arming the cops from pistols to rifles. So there's no cops anywhere. Of course, everything you do is seen. So whether you see that as a good or bad thing, well, I guess it depends on perspective. And I see pros and cons. But the people I spoke to here, they said, well, I'm not breaking the law, so I don't care. And I've never had it used against me, and now it's not used against us at any time. On that too, it feels safe. Like, it feels very safe. I'm on the train, I'm on the buses, I'm walking down here, I'm walking through town, I'm at late night, 3 a.m. coming back from a bar, drunk. Feels safe. Feels safe. And I'm a Westerner. Look at me. I stand out like dog's balls here. And I spoke to many who also have either lived or studied in the West. And one of the first things they've said to me is that the West feels unsafe, it feels unpredictable due to the political nature and the ever-changing nature of things, and boring because everything's closed early. So unsafe, unpredictable, boring. And that's what they told me. These people have lived there for like a lot of time. For some of them, studied, worked, lived, partners, etc. Again, I'm just the messenger here, saying what I've been told, mainly due to some social lubricant of alcohol as well. Some clear alcohol turns out to be very good social lubricant. Social credit. Now, everyone say, oh, it's a tiny social credit system, blah, 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 blah. That you walk across a road and next thing you can't shop. I asked about this, and again, politely, but because of the ridiculousness, I was laughed at when I asked this. Like, completely laughed at. And the answer was, it is completely irrelevant to the majority of the population. They're like, no, it's irrelevant. It only, they say, applies to criminals, or either violent or in large financial crimes. And what it will limit is it will limit things like the purchase of train tickets, plane tickets, bus tickets. But they said, no, these are, the term I believe the person I spoke to used was, these are real criminals. Like, real criminals will have restrictions on that, and it's implemented through the system, given a idea of the severity of the crime, and to do with then some of the surveillance also, and the ability for your card to, you have like a ID that then purchases train tickets, etc. But he said, no, this is for like very serious crimes, either financial or violent. Now there's this idea that if you jaywalk, that you'll then not be able to buy a bus ticket. And they said, no. They said that is laughable, that you'd be punished by this. Some traffic lights will have a camera and a screen at it, and if you jaywalk momentarily, that will take a photo of you and it will put up on the screen just momentarily of your face as a shame. But that's it from there. It's a closed system. It then doesn't stay with you whatsoever. And that's what they said, that people take that as, therefore, forever, everything's falling apart. And they said that's laughable, mate. Censorship. Okay, this is something I'm going to speak on a lot more quickly now, but I'll speak on at length in a separate video, and I've got to put some stuff together, but it does exist. And the question, and this is the million-dollar question, and the thing is, it's column A, column B, it's a bit of both, is it to control the CPC, the Communist Party of China narrative, not CCP, CPC, look at how it's written, or is it to keep out the Western narrative? And this is the funny thing when I speak to people, is some will say it's about controlling the party's narrative, others will say it's to keep out your narrative, because we know if this was opened up, there would then be $1 trillion campaign through propaganda and sources through things like USAID straight into here to try and flip us against the government. So that's an interesting thing, and that's something I'm going to speak on a lot more. But it's a bit of column A and a bit of column B. Speaking to a lot of people about this, the censorship from the average person doesn't seem to really worry them whatsoever. And they say it's very black and white of what it is. Censorship is you can't criticise the party, you can't incite violence or revolution, but other than that, they see as no real issue. And I say, well, what happens if something like that, if you were to post something like that, say online, like WeChat, which is like their sort of payment/messenger Instagram system. And I said, yeah, most likely it would just be deleted from the back end. That said, there's so much data gets posted on there from 1 billion people, literally 1 billion people every single day, that they can't really control it. And unless it was like a real terror act or an incitement with real intent to carry out, that you wouldn't be getting someone knocking at your door. VPNs, so virtual private networks, this would be a good position for an ad right now. They are widely available. I've used one the entire time with no problem, and I've been talking to friends over Instagram and Facebook and whatever, both here and back home, and family the entire time. And many, many people have them. Mostly young men have them. Still not a vast majority of the population use them, but they're widely available to get access anywhere. I've read Western media, Western this, that here, no worries at all. Although, on the censorship thing, and this is something I'll speak about more at length, I did speak with people that have worked in industries around media, around things like this, and they did tell me that they don't have, and they wish they had the creative freedom that I do to say and do whatever I'd like, and that they, quote, felt more like a mouthpiece. Now, one thing you do see, and I've talked to a lot of people from then expats to locals, is that China is really for Chinese, for Han Chinese, which make up over 90% of China. And they say that regardless of if you are right or wrong, say you're doing business here as a Westerner, you're doing business, regardless if you're right and wrong, if you get into a dispute, they likely will side with the Chinese. It's very much patriotic or nationalist like that. And sometimes when there are legal battles over business, whatever, it will sit outside of the law and have a lot of influence culturally on that. Even if you're like, well, this is, I was meant, you're meant to do X, and I have had this happen to me, and that you're doing a business deal, and some of the stuff's around. If you're a Westerner going against someone from China, it may be very difficult, at least from some of the conversations that I've had. Now, a lot of people do see the party, so the Communist Party, as a very separate entity that doesn't really impact their daily life that much, and no one doubts that it's authoritarian by nature, but a lot of people believe that it has their best interests at heart. And this is something that I have to think about a lot, write about, speak about, be wrong on, be right on, go over with other people, is I did have a person theorise with me about this, about the authoritarian nature that no one doubts of the government, and saying that if you've got an authoritarian state, authoritarian government, a one-party state, that in a state that is more or less homogenous, so 90%, Han Chinese, that it wouldn't be as radical, it's not as radical that way as if you had the same level of authority in a single party in a state that was much more culturally diverse. So if you had the same one party represented by one ethnicity, culture, in a diverse country, that would be far more radical than it would be in a country that is very homogenous like this. Of course, I'm not then trying to discredit some of the discrimination that does happen here, although I'm about to go eat Islam noodles if I've got time. But yeah, would it be far more radical to try and implement that in a country like Australia than it may have the outcome here? And a lot of people I spoke to, it doesn't impact my daily life at all. Although you never know, they may not be willing to speak to me about it, maybe try to shut me down on that. And I believe they've got my best interest at heart, so I don't really care. And that what's one of the things that scares them about a country like Australia or the West in general is the unpredictability of it, that the government can just change, policy can just change on a dime. And they're worried about safety. Look at what's happened in the US today with ICE. As far as the video I've seen, it looks like they've executed someone. And the police being armed and this and that, and they're worried about safety of that. So I think that is all the notes that I've got. Let me have a look. I did surveillance, social credit, censorship. I didn't think that I'd even be able to stand here and talk about this basically in front of a camera. You know, these aren't all paid actors. Or if it is, I'm living in the Truman Show and it's unbelievable. They've spent an unbelievable amount of billions of dollars to make this happen. But China blew me away. And change is always difficult when you are wrong on a lot. Now, of course, there's things here which, you know, I am still critical of some of the things the party do, some of the discrimination, etc. But it has blown me away. The cleanliness, the people, the openness. Like, people openly speak about Taiwan and debate that. Like, I didn't expect any of that. Speak about Hong Kong, speak about Macau. What? I expected none of that. So it's been like a rewiring of my brain, and I'm already planning a return. This is the point at which people say that I was paid a lot of money. Guys, come on. I've already said that my sellout rate is $10 million. And at that point, yeah, I will. I'm joking. I'm never going to sell out. But it's been unbelievably eye-opening for me. And this is why I came here, was contacts of mine saying, mate, you need to come here. And that's what I say to you guys. Book a flight, come here, see it. See it. If I've been fine here, you likely will be absolutely fine. I don't know exactly who you are, but I've been openly critical to hundreds of thousands of people. Yeah, okay. Something that I get sort of time and time again is... Hello! See? Is people here seeing the West collapse, or thinking the West is collapsing. Now, that could just be a lot of propaganda too. But I tell you, all propaganda has to start with an element of truth. Remember that. Remember, we always talk about this. All propaganda has to have an element of truth. And people seeing in China as the phoenix state, collapse and come out of the ashes again. Song dynasty, Ming dynasty, you name it, it's collapsed and re-risen into something different. And a lot of this happens around 250 years. And some will say the West is ready for a bit of a readjustment like that. And many people, they think that this is what we are experiencing. And this becomes the meme of a photo of Xi saying, do nothing, win. That they say, I really like the trajectory that this is on. And if we do nothing, we stay on this trajectory, that we'll become, you know, that middle kingdom, that all under heaven, and that we will end up in massive amounts of power without trying to push power around everywhere, and being far more open to increasing soft power than other bits and pieces, rather than, I guess, how you may see like America working on Venezuela or this or that. One of the big things I've come from here is I highly doubt that there's going to be military action against Taiwan. I just doubt it. There's islands 4Ks off the shore here with like nothing on them. Not nothing on them, but like they're not going to be defended. Like, I just don't see, and people I've spoken to too, just don't see that's how they would roll. The damage that would be done internationally, even domestically, you know, for people that they see as theirs, that they see this as a domestic problem, but it would be unbelievably bloody against that they see as their own. Well, not Taiwan and China, like mainland, Beijing and Taipei, they don't doubt that they're Chinese. It's just who the legitimate government is. So it's blown me away. Now, one of the things I thought of was, when I'm in Europe, I can't even take a piss without paying €1 to go to a public toilet covered in piss and shit. Like, I can't even do that in some crackdown. Here, there's public toilets everywhere. People saying hello to me in their limited English, smiling at me. Are there things that are weird about censorship and surveillance and everything? Yeah, absolutely. This is more that I'm going to break down. Is anywhere perfect? No, absolutely not. Am I packing bags to move here? No, absolutely not. I couldn't do the job I do here, speaking to people in the media. But has it been completely different to what I thought? Yeah. Does it feel inauthentic? Does it feel fake? No, it does not at all. It doesn't feel fake. It doesn't feel put on. It doesn't feel inauthentic. China concerns me as a European Westerner of like, Jesus, this is 4 times the population of the US, more than double the population of Europe, the continent, including like Europe and Russia, and 50 times the population of Australia. But think of this, not only is it those numbers that I've said, but it is a state of which can have a 50-year plan due to being a one-party authoritarian state, but also a state of which 90% of your people are the same ethnicity. Meanwhile, we are watering down everything from our own population through mass immigration. We have fertility issues like they absolutely have here, and then busy arguing about things that don't really matter. Meanwhile, China builds more green energy than everywhere else in the world combined, and more high-speed rail than everywhere else in the world combined. Do I want to move here and pack up and... No, absolutely, I don't. I really don't. But strategically, is it a huge threat? Militarily, I believe not, because I don't think they will have to ever fire a shot to just have mass amount of control. Come here and see for yourself. It's blown me away, and I'm so glad that I've done this to get a perspective on what I think, what I see. So, legends. I don't actually know if I'm going to have time for Islam noodles, but from Daylong Reservoir in Xiamen, China, the airport is just over here. You could probably see maybe a couple of planes taken off behind me. I hope that you're having a fantastic day. I've got a lot to think about, a lot to write about, and a late flight after a long day, and a little bit of beers and some white liquor last night. You guys look after yourself. You have a fantastic day, and I'll speak to you in the next couple of days. Thank you, and thank you for dealing with me while I've had basically a week off filming. It was desperately needed, a little bit of a break. So, until next time, see you, legends.